Welcome back to Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm bringing some transfer talk. Going through the recent links in recent weeks to all the players that we've been linked to in the press, going through my thoughts on them. So we're going to break it down into defenders, midfielders, and attackers. And starting with defenders, we might as well go straight into it. The most recent one comes from the Athletic, and it's Adam Asnu of Bayern Munich. 19-year-old fullback, left back, so very young, right profile. In my opinion, I think this one is a decent link. I think it shows we're shopping in the right areas. I think he does improve the starting 11, in my opinion. Obviously, he's got that pedigree coming from a top academy like Bayern Munich. He's got that pedigree to play for such a top side like that. And also, he's playing for Morocco in their youth setup, in the international youth setup there. So I think it is a good profile of player. I think he does improve the starting 11 whilst also planning for the future as well. Obviously, it does remain to be seen whether it will be a potential loan deal or a permanent deal from Bayern Munich. But it does show to me that we are shopping in the right areas, and obviously a prestigious source like the Athletic linking that there must be some legs to it. So elsewhere, we're going to the other side now from Adam Asnu. I think Adam Asnu is obviously a good one. That's probably top of the list in terms of defender links at the moment. The other side is Georgios Vagiannidis of Panathinaikos, and that's Miguel Delaney of the Independent, Abola, and Record over in Portugal that are all reporting that we are interested in him. The first thing I say about him is youth. Again, 23 years old, playing weekly over in Greece for Panathinaikos. Good profile. Again, shows that we're shopping in the right areas. He actually did get sent off in the first leg of their Champions League qualifier versus Rangers. And I also saw a report that we wouldn't actually be making any progress in terms of signing him until that fixture was going to be over. Obviously, the two-legged tie was going to be over. So maybe now he's out of that. We might see that one moving a little bit more in the coming days or coming weeks. But again, I said it before, he's a decent profile. It shows that we are shopping in the right areas for fullbacks. Again, what does it mean for Nathan Patterson? It's more competition for him when really this is make or break season for him. Is he going to take this right back spot into his own hands and really make it his own, or is he going to have more competition? And obviously, Vagiannidis is a decent player playing week in, week out. Can he make the step over from Greece to the Premier League? It is a big step. But again, I think it shows that it's a decent profile and we're shopping in the right areas. But elsewhere, going from youth to the complete other end of the spectrum for the last defender in the list to experience, it's Nicolas Tagliafico. He's just left Olympique Lyon over in France. The reports for this one have gone a little bit quiet, but it was the Mail that reported it initially. I think for Tagliafico, it would be a sensible one on a free transfer, in my opinion. It adds a little bit of experience into the squad. If you're playing him as a second choice to Mykolenko, I think it's a good mentor for Mykolenko. Obviously, Mykolenko's getting into that stage of his career now where he wants to be playing week in, week out. So Tagliafico would probably come in as a little bit of a backup. But again, as I said before, it's sensible on a free transfer. We've seen so many times where free transfers have come in. Yeah, you might have to pay them a little bit more wages than what you would have wanted to, but you're saving money on the transfer fee. So they end up being relatively decent squad players. And, you look at the likes of James Tarkowski, for example. I think he is the prime example of a decent free agent. So if Tagliafico were to come in on a free transfer, I think it would be a fantastic bit of business. But again, the reports on this one do seem to have gone a little bit quiet regarding him. But moving away from defenders now, we'll go into the midfield and we'll start with one of the main ones that's been linked with this summer. It's Douglas Luiz. That's from a variety of sources. I could probably count on two hands the amount of sources that have linked Douglas Luiz to Everton, along with the likes of Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. But for me, Douglas Luiz is an absolutely top player. Premier League experience, has played very well to a high standard in the Premier League for Aston Villa. Maybe was a little bit unfortunate to leave Villa when he did. But obviously they had their PSR troubles at the time. They weren't able to spend as much money as they wanted to. So Douglas Luiz was kind of in the firing line. He was on the chopping block to be that player that was sold for PSR reasons. But there's no doubt about it. There's a fantastic player in there. Maybe has fallen a little bit out of favour over at Juventus. Has not played a lot of football this season, whether that be to his form or injuries. He has sort of struggled to really nail down a place in Juventus' squad, but there's no doubt about it. In my opinion, he's a fantastic player, and I'd be absolutely buzzing if Douglas Luiz were to become an Everton player at the end of this summer. But elsewhere now, going away from Premier League experience, it's Merlin Roll, and that was Miguel Delaney of the Independent who initially reported that one, are interested in him. He was fantastic for Germany, wasn't he? Merlin Roll in the under-21 Euros. He really generalled that midfield, in my opinion. One we have actually already bid for in January. I think it was Fabrizio Romano that confirmed that we had bid for him twice from Freiburg in January to try and sign him. So seems to be a player that is of interest to Everton. The committee do seem to like him. So again, this one would probably be a decent signing. It would probably be more of a development signing than say Douglas Luiz, because you might have to bed him into the Premier League a little bit more. You look at the likes of a player like Anton Stack, who's just gone to Leeds United. He's a similar sort of player, similar profile that you're going to have to give them time to bed into the Premier League. We've seen it so many times with especially midfielders coming from the Bundesliga over to the Premier League. It does take a little bit of time to adapt, but there's no doubt about it in my mind. He's a fantastic player, and there is definitely a player in there. And as I said earlier on with the likes of Adam Asnu and Georgios Vagianidis, it shows that we are shopping in the right areas, looking forward to the future, because we're shopping for that profile of maybe 20, 21, 22, even 23-year-olds that are getting towards that peak of their career, but have so much football to play and have so much to give, and will really protect the future of the club going forward. So I think it's would be a fantastic sign in Merlin role. But as I said before, if he were to come to the club, I think he would take a little bit of time to bed in and really acclimatise to the Premier League. But elsewhere, sort of following that footstep and following the similar kind of blueprint of that, it's James McAtee. And a host of sources have reported this one as well. Ben Jacobs, iPaper Sports, The Independent have all linked us to James McAtee this summer. Would probably be my dream signing for this summer if it were up to me. I think James McAtee is a fantastic player. He showed that he can be a fantastic player for Manchester City. They just have such a plethora of talent in their squad that it's very, very difficult to break in and be a starter at Manchester City, as you saw with Cole Palmer. Now, look, Cole Palmer is probably a better player than James McAtee, but if you look at what his situation was at Manchester City all them years ago when he joined Chelsea, he was wanting to play football consistently. He had the ability to do so, but Manchester City just had so much talent and so many top players that Pep Guardiola couldn't really find a way into the squad for him. And I think James McAtee is kind of feeling that same those same issues that Cole Palmer faced a couple of seasons ago. So for me, James McAtee would be an absolute dream signing for me. Fantastic player, has showed that he can do it for Manchester City, but also he showed consistency in his loan spells with Sheffield United. I think he has showed that he can be a top player fighting further down the league. So yeah, definitely. I'd be massively happy if James McAtee were to join the club this summer. But moving away from youth and we're going back to experience for the final midfielder in the list, it's John McGinn, and this was The Athletic and Paul Joyce that reported that. John McGinn, he's an experienced head, has done it week in, week out for countless seasons in the Premier League now. It's been fantastic for Aston Villa. I've read a lot of Aston Villa fans saying that they don't want to sell him, that he is an experienced head. He's so vital for squad morale, John McGinn. But also, is he getting to that age now where he would maybe suit an Everton a little bit better than an Aston Villa, who are wanting to fight further up the table, wanting to fight in the Champions League, Europa League, season after season they want to do that. Is John McGinn really the man to take them forward to do that? I'm not so sure. But for Everton, I think he would be an absolute diamond in terms of experience. He'd be a leader of men, and it would stop him from always scoring against us for Aston Villa, which he always seems to do at Villa Park or at Goodison. He always seems to do it. So just for that reason alone, I'd say sign John McGinn. But in all seriousness, I do think it will be a decent signing to sign John McGinn. A little bit of experience into the squad. We're going to have a massive rebuild this summer. So a little bit of experience wouldn't go amiss. But again, this one seems to have gone a little bit quiet as well. This was a tentative link maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm not sure if anything has come of it since. But if John McGinn were to come to the club, I think it would be a decent bit of business for the right price. Moving away from the midfielders now, we'll go into the forwards, and we'll start with Takefusa Kubo, and that was Paul Joyce of The Telegraph, Miguel Delaney of the Telegraph, who also reported that. Top player, pacey, tricky winger. He's something that we've been crying out for seasons now. He also does have the pedigree. He's played in both Barcelona and Real Madrid's academies as he was younger. So that just shows how much pedigree he has as a footballer. But as I said before, top player, Takefusa Kubo. He's just that profile we've been crying out for. That winger that can get beyond his man and put a cross in, or get beyond his man, create a chance. It's that profile we've been crying out for so long, Takefusa Kubo. So I'd be really happy if this one were to take place. But also, you're looking at maybe upwards of 30 million to get him out of Real Sociedad, and I think it would, would probably face a little bit of a battle from a few other clubs that would be vying for his signature. So yeah, one to maybe keep an eye on, because we've seen a few tentative links here and there from obviously Paul Joyce, but Again, can we really prize him away from Real Sociedad, or can we, convince him that Everton is the right fit for him? I think it does remain to be seen, but there's no doubt about it. Takefusa Kubo has been a fantastic player over the years for Real Sociedad, and I'd be very happy if he were to join Everton. But moving away from Takefusa Kubo now, we'll move on to Jacob Ramsey, and it was Mike McGrath of the Telegraph who reported that. Also a fantastic player on his day, Jacob Ramsey. I'm not so sure. I'd kind of be surprised if Villa were to sell him. One, because he's one of their own. He's a youth player. He's come through the academy, and I know that would probably help their PSR concerns, being straight profit on the books for them. But also, if you look at that, he's a homegrown player, and I think a lot of clubs are now realizing that to fill these quotas of homegrown players, you need to keep players within the squad that, one, are going to make a difference, but two, have come from your academy. So Jacob Ramsey would obviously fit that bill for us as well, being homegrown. But yeah, as I said before, I'm not so sure Villa would let him go because I think he's a fantastic player. I think Nottingham Forest were in pole position most to sign Jacob Ramsey, but there's no doubt about it. He's been a fantastic player for Villa over the years, and I'd be very, very happy to see him join Everton Football Club. And finally, the final player on the list, and you're probably going to want to close your ears for this one, but it's Jack Harrison, and it was iPaper Sports who reported our interest in him. Jack Harrison, how many times do we have to see Jack Harrison's name being linked to Everton? I think this one might have run its course now, in my opinion. We've had 2 seasons of Jack Harrison on loan from Leeds United. Obviously, with their promotion from the Championship, the loan clause in his contract has obviously been cancelled, and they are probably wanting to offload him off the books. He did actually play for Leeds the other day in a friendly in Stockholm against Manchester United. Don't think he created too much. I think that game actually finished 0-0 over in Stockholm against Manchester United, but for me, Jack Harrison, I think it's probably run its course now. I think we can look to move on to other targets. If it were a sensible fee, like a very nominal fee, like a 1-2 million, and he was coming in as fourth choice winger, I think I'd maybe warm to it a little bit more. But I think the problem for me is we're not seeing any concrete interest or concrete links or concrete bids being thrown in for wingers, and we're still being linked to Jack Harrison. It would be fine if we'd got our 2 first choice wingers through the door and Jack Harrison was coming in as an option. But at the moment, that's not the case. So personally, I wouldn't go near this one unless it was a very, very small fee and he was coming in as pretty much back up to either side. But I would probably steer clear of this one for now with Jack Harrison. I think we know what kind of output he's put into Everton in the last couple of seasons, and it's not really up to the scratch that we want it to be. But that is all for today's video on Transfer Talk, the various links that we've seen in the last couple of weeks to various players. Let me know your favourite player on this list that you want to see join the club. For me personally, I think it would be Douglas Luiz and James McAtee, purely because the pedigree of those 2 players I think are absolutely fantastic. I think that's the right areas that we should be shopping in. But I'm interested to know your thoughts in the comments about where you think the area that needs strengthening the most. But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.